In the summer of 1986, a well-respected zoology professor at the University of Pavia in Italy was busy conducting experiments on the visual perception of wolves and foxes. Then suddenly, completely randomly and inexplicably, a humanoid entity appeared in front of him and his camera. The figure was striking, possibly female or androgynous, clad in a tight, form-fitting bodysuit with pale blue-green bands around the neck, shoulders, and arms. There appeared to be no seams or visible fasteners. On its head, a sleek visor and what looked like a communication device mounted on top, alongside a microphone-like arm near the ear, although unlike any headset known to the contemporary technology of the 80s. Its face, where visible, appeared dark to olive-skinned. The entity moved, but made no sound at all. The professor, by all accounts a rational, grounded man with no prior interest in the paranormal, reacted with remarkable composure. Despite the surreal scene unfolding in front of him, and not knowing what else to do, he grabbed the Nikon camera he had right there for his research, and started taking photos. For as long as humans have been able, we've sought ways to record our experiences of the world around us. From basic stuff like the food we eat and the people we encounter, to events of deep personal or cultural significance, we've always been driven to capture and retell both the mundane and the special. And these days, thanks to the dark corners of the internet, people can safely share all kinds of stories and experiences, sometimes with only a handful of like-minded or sympathetic individuals, on subjects that would invite mockery or disbelief from the wider world. One subject routinely overlooked by the masses, or most aggressively dismissed, is encounters with anomalous, otherworldly intelligences. The 20th century saw the rise of the experiencer and the abductee, individuals claiming that they've either met or been taken by non-human beings. Such claims have become so prevalent in our times that special online communities have formed, offering safe havens where people can openly share their stories, seek guidance, or simply find emotional support without fear of judgment. Yet skeptics often scoff at these accounts, attributing them to mental illness, mass hysteria, or simple delusion. And perhaps reasonably enough, they highlight a critical problem. These experiences almost always lack physical evidence. To the true believer in the paranormal, lack of evidence is an issue that will often be rationalized or simply overlooked in favor of personal truth. But to the hardcore skeptic, it's an Achilles heel. It provides a perfect vector of attack that, in their view, easily undermines the foundation of anomalous claims. The orthodoxy of Western society tends to look favorably upon the skeptic, often dismissing and at times ridiculing the believer. So when, on that rare occasion, a story emerges with something resembling concrete evidence, it can act as a catalyst, catapulting that account out of the background noise and into the public eye. What was once fringe becomes, for a while, part of the mainstream conversation. On March 5, 1988, the Italian newspaper Corriere della Sera released its regular weekend supplement magazine, Sette, Italian for 7. Known for its long-form journalism covering culture, science and society, Sette often catered to a broad Italian readership, particularly middle-class and educated audiences interested in in-depth features. While generally aligned with the mainstream tone of its parent publication, Sette occasionally ventured into more fringe or unconventional territory, exploring topics like UFOs, the paranormal, or speculative science, especially when tied to major cultural events or waves of public curiosity. The issue of Sette featured the photographs of the alleged entity, accompanied by an article written by journalist Nulo Contaroni. According to the piece, the professor had submitted the images and a brief account of the incident on the strict condition that his identity remain completely anonymous. He refused any form of payment for the photographs and offered no interpretation or theory about what the entity was, or why it had appeared so suddenly before him. However, he did provide technical details about the camera setup he used. A Nikon camera with a motor drive, polychrome film, a 55mm lens, aperture set at f3.5 and a slow shutter speed. Cantaroni emphasized that the professor struck him as entirely credible, rational, balanced, intelligent, and notably skeptical of the UFO phenomenon. The article then explores possible explanations for the photographs. One theory suggests that the professor himself may have staged a hoax, but this is quickly dismissed as unlikely, given his refusal to profit from the images or seek public attention. Another possibility is that he was the victim of an elaborate prank, yet this is also said to be improbable. Why target a grounded academic with no known connection to UFO circles or any paranormal interest? The final is that the photos are genuine, that the professor managed to capture something anomalous. A few weeks later, the Italian UFO magazine UFO Express published several reader responses to the Sette article. One letter was openly skeptical, suggesting the supposed entity was simply an out-of-focus human figure, perhaps someone in a ski suit. Another reader, however, claimed the figure closely resembled an entity encountered in 1987 near Canal Bianco, suggesting it may not be an isolated case. As well as these reactions, UFO Express followed up directly with Sette's editorial office and also published some clarifying details. These included confirmation of the photographic equipment used, the fact that the professor had been experimenting with how canines visually perceive the world, and that the encounter took place just after sunset, with a 1/4 second exposure time on the camera. On March 27, 1988, Italy's national broadcaster aired an episode of In Search of the Ark, hosted by Mino D'Amato, a respected journalist and television presenter known for his compassionate approach to human interest stories as well as fringe phenomena. That night's episode featured a segment on the Pavia entity and the Sette article published earlier that month. The program showcased the original photographs and expanded on the story, incorporating the new details that had emerged since publication. Audience and viewer reactions were sharply divided. Some dismissed the photos as nothing more than a person in a costume, whilst others speculated that the figure could be something far stranger, such as a time traveler or an alien being. Either way, the broadcast resulted in a further surge of public interest, resulting in a flood of letters and phone calls to both the broadcaster and the editorial office of Sette. However, following this, it seems like the profile of the case evaporated, as there was no further media coverage or public developments. All of this might have been lost to history were it not for the efforts of Reddit user and independent researcher UFO Nauta. After first encountering the photographs in the book Aliens in Italy 1945-95 by Marino Tambellini, he became intrigued by their clarity and lack of mainstream attention. Deciding to try and find out more, he eventually located physical copies of the Sette article and the follow-up coverage in UFO Express. Using clues from the publications, specifically that the witness had been involved in research on canine vision and cognition during the mid-1980s, he was able to identify a likely candidate for the anonymous professor at the University of Pavia. He attempted to contact the professor via academic email and office phone, but received no response. In keeping with the professor's original request for anonymity, he chose not to disclose the individual's identity. UFO Nauta also reached out to the Italian National Television Archive to obtain the original 1988 broadcast of In Search of the Ark featuring the case, but was denied access, being told that the footage is only available to accredited journalists, academics, or Italian citizens. He also notes that the photographs had been co-opted by some fringe books and detached from their original source, which had significantly complicated his investigation. Much like the readers of Sette and the television audience of the 1980s, modern-day Reddit users encountering UFO Nauta's research tend to split into two camps. Many express disbelief, seeing only a blurry image of what appears to be a human figure in a blue ski or diving suit, and questioning the conveniently unclear quality of the photos. Some, however, adopt a more open-minded stance, acknowledging the limitations of the imagery whilst praising the author's meticulous research and effort to preserve a case that would otherwise be lost to time. Whatever we decide for ourselves, whether it's a hoax, misdirection, or something really anomalous, it illustrates just how much weight a handful of photographs and a bit of a story can carry. Without the evidence, it's almost sure this event would have slipped into total obscurity. It certainly wouldn't have made its way, however briefly, into the Italian national discourse. It most likely never would have been told at all. Some of us want to believe, some of us really don't. But we get a kick either way. There's as much joy for the skeptic in untangling nonsense, debunking hoaxes, and exposing flaws as there is for the believer in peering into the unknown and extrapolating to far-flung possibilities. And let's be honest, no matter how stupid opposing opinions can feel to us sometimes, if everybody agreed on this stuff, there'd be no one left to argue with on the internet. No debates, no drama, just silence. Everybody goes back to their cereal. And where's the fun in that?